Hi, everybody. This is Tanya Walker, and this is One Day of Love. Now we're talking about all the things that we love in life, including relationships. And today, my guest is a fantastic international author. Her book, 125 Ways to Meet the Love of Your Life, has been published in just about every country in the world. And it's very popular. It's got wonderful current relevant information. And I think she's getting ready to bring out the third edition. But I got a lot out of the second edition that I listened to over the weekend. And I highly suggest it to you. It's also got a lot of information about time management and business. And even if you're married, ways to keep your marriage really hot and wonderful. So welcome, Jan Yager. Hi, Jan.
Thanks so much for having me.
Welcome. I thought you were you're just really interesting, and I love your lists are amazing. I want the audience to know what you do, because a lot of people write books about relationships, but you were married for 3 years in your early 20s. Then you were not married for 13. And then what did you do? Now, this is going to sound a little dated to people because people don't do these personal ads anymore, at least nobody that I know, but you put out a personal ad. And it was very articulate and very creative. And what happened?
Well, the first ad didn't work.
Okay.
The first ad, the good thing about the first ad was it helped me define what was important to me.
Mhm.
And then in the second ad, I refined it, and luckily I got over 100, almost 150 responses.
Mhm.
And one of them was my future husband. And the fun thing is that after we were married, I happened to find that he had the New York Magazine, and that first ad he had circled, but he hadn't followed up on it. So
Oh,
yes,
he had circled your ad already.
but the second ad made him actually write to me. And then I called him. And at the time, I figured I'd get a voice machine going back, because not only was it personal ads, but voice machines.
Uh-huh, I
And,
remember.
um,
I remember.
and he was a freelance screenwriter at the time. So he was actually working at home. So he answered the phone, and I was totally flustered because I was all set to leave a message.
Mm-hmm.
So we chatted, and I really liked his voice and his mannerism. And I was very busy because I was a woman on a mission. What happened was, my older sister, as long as she didn't have children, I figured I had all the time in the world. So she announced that she was 3 months pregnant. And I was thrilled for her. But when I got off the phone, I started crying, like, oh no, I guess I am 35. The baby clock is ticking.
I
So I
totally
decided,
related to that. I don't mean to interrupt, but I totally related to that. Harvey Firestein is a friend of mine, and he lives in Connecticut. And I was over at his house on the 4th of July, 1995, I guess, or 96. And I said to him, by this time next year, I'm going to be engaged. I'm going to be getting married. And he said, how do you know that? I said, I just know it. I just know it. I just have to have it. I'm 36. I'm going to be 37. I've got to get married. I've got to have children. And I was on a mission, and everybody I went out with was like auditioning for fatherhood. It was a lot of pressure.
exactly. So I was very busy auditioning people for the role of husband and future father. So I said to Fred, well, we can get together in a few weeks. And he was like, really? A few weeks? What about tonight? I'm like, whoa. Well, I happened to, at the time, I was an assistant professor at a college on Long Island, and I was having a networking, because it was around the holiday time. They were having a networking event in Manhattan at a restaurant. So I said, well, I have a business obligation. He says, well, what if we meet just to say hello afterwards? So he came into the bar, and I know this sounds absolutely ridiculous, but because I hadn't seen him, and I purposely didn't ask people to send photographs, because when I found people sent photographs, I reacted to, does the person look better or worse than the photograph? So I didn't want a photograph. So I had no idea what he looked like.
That's
But
brave.
when
That's
I
really
saw
brave.
him, what?
That's brave, because I want lots
Well,
of pictures. Well, they only show one. I'm like, what's wrong with you?
no, but when I saw him, he's absolutely gorgeous, and my knees buckled,
Wow.
literally.
Wow.
So
Wow.
we talked till like 2 in the morning, and then I think it was a week later, I proposed.
You did?
I proposed, and Fred said, I need more time. Now, both of us were coming out of 4-year relationships that hadn't worked. So
Yeah.
I figured when he said he needed time, he was talking about weeks, months,
Right.
years. And I said, I'm going to keep dating because there's only one reason that I'm going to stop dating. And I hope you understand that. Little did I know he meant he needed another week.
Not another year.
And Christmas Day, we met my parents in the morning for brunch. We drove to his parents for Christmas Day, and he pulled off the side of the road and he proposed to me. And
Wow.
and that Friday, um, like 2 days later, we decided to get married that Sunday, and we called up everyone we knew, and they all
Party at
said,
my house.
they said, great. And then they said, great. It was the day before New Year's Eve. So everyone was free because they were resting up. And they all said they'd be at the wedding. But then they'd say, but who's Fred?
Yeah.
Or who's Jan? So, and people came to the wedding in his friend's loft. It was beautiful in Chelsea.
Yeah, I
They all
understand. I
came.
think that's great. But I mean,
No, but
just
they all came deciding how long before they get divorced.
right. They were
Yeah,
taking bets. That
take
happened
it
with
next.
us. That happened with us. That happened with us too. We got engaged after 6 months. That happened with us too.
But
Um,
39 years later, we're having the last laugh,
that's
and
wonderful.
we're happy. That's the important thing.
Yeah,
You
it is.
the years I was single, and I tell this to people when I coach them about relationships. I say the only thing worse than being alone and lonely is being in the wrong relationship that's really
Right.
stressful and not meant to be.
Right. Right.
Because you're not having the chance to find that wonderful fit that's right.
I want to hear about your lists. You have lists. God, you have lists. You've listen, that book. One of the lists is like a survey that you should give, in your opinion, you should give to yourself and to whoever it is, if you can get enough.
Exactly. Well, Tanya, the important thing is I keep doing research because, and ethically, since I don't pretend to be single, but I have single friends of all age groups, and they're my first person,
They're your
insight,
control group.
right. And I have a 62-year-old girlfriend who's divorced, and her boyfriend, after 9 years, said it's over. And for a year, she's been trying to find the right one. But talking about lists and that survey, she is very clear that politics is a value that she will not have any wiggle room around. And that's her choice. I mean, obviously half of the population are not going to be right for her,
Mhm.
but that's what matters to her. And in my friendship research and in my relationship research, shared values are pivotal. So one of the important things in my second ad was saying right off the bat, I want to find someone who wants to get married and have a family.
Yeah, I
And
saw that.
I hadn't done that in the first ad, so I got a lot of people who just wanted to have fun,
Mhm.
which is fine. And older singles who
Fine if
had
you're not
families.
37. It's fine if you're not 35. But if you're 35,
Exactly.
you want to try to have healthy children.
And
And once
I
in a while, people have children that are really, really healthy when they're 43, but you want to give yourself the best opportunity that you can.
sure. And it's interesting because for a new book I'm working on that has nothing to do with relationships, romantic relationships, but whenever I'm interviewing someone for a different topic, this one's on academia, when the interviewee revealed that he's 43 and makes $250,000 a year, and now it's time to find a wife and settle down and
And
have
no.
family. So I said to him, well, I'm thinking of doing a Zoom for it was going to be 50 and up, but I'll do 40 and up. And it would be a way to meet and talk and, different than online dating. And he was very blunt. He said, it would not interest me. He said, I need someone 30 and up.
Yeah.
I don't want someone 40 and up. I want someone in their late 20s or 30s. And, I think there's there's 8 billion people in the world. So it's someone who's single. It's your job to find that one person. You just need one
Well,
who
here's what I
right
think.
for you.
Here's what I think about the age thing. I remember when I was out here, there was a man from Connecticut who was a very, very close friend, very, very handsome, younger than me, about 7 years, but I had just lost my husband. I mean, I wasn't in the least bit interested in dating anybody, seeing anybody. I couldn't even imagine it. We'd been married 21 years. It was my only marriage. We had children together with wonderful children. We'd been through so much. We had such a big life, and it was just the wrong time, But he came to be my friend and to help me. And he got us into the house and I mean, painted the house and things like that for me. And it was just an angel, really. And so I had people over for Thanksgiving or Easter or some holiday, and this woman is single and she lives here. And she has got long blonde hair, long hair like you, all blonde, beautiful woman. And she said, "Are you hitting that?" I said, "What?" Because I had never heard that expression because I just haven't been in this grouping. Okay. "Are you hitting that? Are you guys a thing?" And I said, "No." She goes, "Why not?" I said, "Well, I just don't feel that way about him, She goes, "Let me tell you something. You're in Palm Desert, California. Everybody gets old. You are never, ever going to meet anybody that's better looking than this guy, younger than this guy, or as good as this guy forever. I've been here a long time. I'm telling you, if you're lucky to find somebody that's 72, that'll be the best you get." And I was like, God, she's so blunt and rude, and oh my God. And then I lived here a while. I started to think, maybe she's right,
Yeah,
Um,
but that's the beauty of dating today. You have a global world. And you know what? If someone falls in love with you who's in India or Nigeria or South Africa or Paris, you can move there, he can move here,
well, I understand that
I
concept, but
mean,
I don't want really, I was looking in Florida because that's where I want to end up because of Texas. South Carolina, Florida. I miss my family in Maryland. But I have noticed that there have been some men that I've met that didn't want to be with somebody that was 20 years younger. And they were the more intelligent men that I've met. And I fell in love with intelligence and looks, of course, but I fell in love with
sure,
intelligence. And,
sure.
and the fact that they don't, some of these women that are like 40 or younger, you know, they just don't have the same in jokes and stories and in what's funny and in music, especially in music. They just don't like the same music. They don't know the same bands. They didn't, the 80s were very special. Those of us who grew up in the 80s, I mean, my God, did we have a good time, and we all danced and we were just, it was just really fun. I think it was really fun. And my husband was 10 years older than me, and he liked doo-wop, and I hate doo-wop. So, I mean, he liked the Doors. I don't like the Doors. So we really had to sort of compromise. And I'm a big music person, and he was a big music person. So I was constantly listening to music that I really didn't like that much. And I love country music. So I got him into Garth Brooks, but that's about as far as I could get him. And then there were all kinds of stories, about his friends who went into the Vietnam War and all this stuff that happened with that. And I was like 10 when this was happening, and I was watching it on TV. So the intelligent men I've met do care that they have something in common with this younger woman, with normal aged or the right aged person. And I think they come around to realizing that just the body of a 30-year-old when you're 40, or just the body of a 28-year-old when you're 40, that interest in like the person may not be as exciting to be friends with as you think. What do you think about that?
Well, in the decades I've been doing this research, as well as through my own life, I just think that there are no rules. Really, I do have several friends who, their husbands were 10 or 20 years older, and sadly, they became widows
Mhm.
earlier than they might have if there was a smaller age difference.
Mm.
But the 20, 30, or 40 years they had together were wonderful.
Yeah.
And it's cute because my dad passed away at 80, and my mom was 8 years younger. She was 72, younger than I am now. And they had 58 years together. They were happily married, 3 kids, lots of grandkids. So my mom was single for a year or two, and then she met Bill number two. We always called him Bill number two because my dad was Bill
It's
number
Bill number
one.
one, yeah.
And Bill number two, sadly, after a few years, he was then in his mid-90s, he passed away. So then she was single for another 2 or 3 years. And she had a friendship with a woman nearby. And the reason why it's interesting to me that her friend was the facilitator, because this very interesting study from Forbes Health, the state of dating in America, only 5% of the people in my mother's age group met through a friend. So
Wow.
it's very rare that she met through a friend. So she met this younger man. He was quite a few years younger, not a lot, like 4 or 5 years younger. Okay. So she actually said to me, the friendship and relationship expert, what should I do? I want to see if it could go from friendship to something else. So I said, well, you gotta, test the waters. So she had an affair coming up, either a wedding or, some event. And I said, why don't you ask him if he'd like to be your date? And she was like, very surprised because at that point she was in her early 80s, asking a man out, but she did it. And, they had a wonderful relationship for the next 7 or 8 years. And she passed away at 90. But she had two boyfriends post a 58-year marriage. So,
Wow.
and one was 10 years older and one was 4 or 5 years younger. So, it's just being open to that relationship. And I think it's so important. What do you want? Some people want to get married. Some people just want to date. Some people want to have several dates. Some people want something very serious. Younger people who want children, they actually want to get married and settle down. Some people want to just live together today. Statistically, for the first time since we're keeping statistics, there are more singles in America than marrieds.
I know.
So, it's really what works for you. And communication is important. And it's so important to have physical intimacy and make time for it. And people
Well,
don't
I know, I think that's I believe
do
that's
that.
incredibly important. Um, but I don't really think it's great to have a lot of that before you get married, because I do still have us old-fashioned values that, you want to save something, I think.
Well, that's fine. That's your value, and all that matters is that you find someone who agrees with you.
Mhm.
There's no right or wrong. So, you
I'm not
know,
saying you can't be intimate, but there's certain things I think you should save.
yeah, no, that's
And
absolutely fine. And I think anyone that's going to love you in the way you want to be loved is going to say, wow, I've been searching for a woman who feels that way, because that's exactly how I think.
yeah, well, the other thing is though that um my mother will tell me that looks don't really matter now. that what I really need is somebody to, help me clean out the garage, help me put some stuff, help me around
Oh,
the house. I don't need
tell your
anybody to
mother
help
she's
me.
totally wrong.
Because
Looks matter.
I don't have anybody to help me,
No,
and
but looks matter at every age. But guess what? What's one person thinks is handsome, is not what someone else thinks is handsome. And the same thing with beauty. So, it's not so much an ideal of looks, but that person literally turns you on. When I was single, I went out because when I was also wrote a book before 125 Ways when I was single called Single in America. And to research that book, I tried every way you could meet someone as a researcher because I was single. I tried matchmaking, I tried taking courses, I tried blind dates. So someone put me on a blind date and I went out with the man. He was brilliant, he was amazing, but he wasn't my type.
Mm.
And I suggested him to a girlfriend of mine who was also single and looking. And I was so shocked at her reaction. She, instead of thanking me for the blind date and
Oh,
saying
this
that,
is the one that said, "How could you?" I remember you telling this
yeah,
story. Is that
exactly.
her?
Yeah, yeah.
How
So,
rude.
but she found him so physically unappealing that it hurt her self-esteem.
Hmm.
And, that's her issue.
Yeah, it
But,
is.
you
It
know,
is. It is. I don't think anybody hooks anybody up with anybody anymore. But that's just because of where I live. I think everybody here is either happily widowed or not happily widowed, or just looking for somebody younger that they're way too old for me. I just don't. This isn't the right place for me to be even.
I was going to say, why don't you move?
I need to move, but it costs so much to get here. Oh my God. And I love this area, I mean, if I start working again, as an actress, then I'll be able to fly back and forth or go back and forth in the car to LA. But I really didn't meet anybody I wanted to marry when I lived in LA. There was a certain, um, just a certain I like East Coast people. I like people that
But,
have
but,
shoveled a
but,
driveway. I like a
but
man that shoveled a driveway. What can I tell you?
oh yeah. Well, after quite a few years, my husband took on cooking, doing the laundry.
Wow, that's
You know,
something.
yeah, right. Yeah, it's very exciting. But
Jordan
I was
Peterson said, "That's not nothing. That's not nothing."
oh no, I always tease that, hey, that's how you make it to 39 years.
Yeah, right.
Um, but one of the themes of 125 Ways to Meet the Love of Your Life is the time management element. Um, Prioritizing. I was going on the Today Show, and I love to talk to everyone that I meet on the shows.
Mm.
So this producer, I'm saying to her, how old are you? She's in her mid-30s. I said, do you want to get married and have a family? Yes, if it happens. So I say to her, well, how did you become a producer on the Today Show? Well, I did this and I did that and I did that. And I said, well, why can't you apply the same type of strategy to your love life? And instead of saying, if it happens, work on making it happen. And I did the same thing with a producer at CBS, one of the local morning shows. And I ran into her like a year later, and she had gotten married and was having her first child. So
Wonderful,
she
wonderful.
actually told me she had me on the show because she needed my book.
You needed your advice. I think that's really
Yeah.
smart. Well,
Yeah.
another thing I wanted to discuss with you was, how do you feel about um, how long it should take? I know it takes what it takes when people get divorced and people lose people, but there's a woman that I know who I met her when she moved to the desert. I met her husband who was dying of cancer. I loved him. He was so good to her. He was working really hard to make sure her house was in tip-top shape. And I was like, God, where'd she find you? And he goes, well, I'm dying. I'm not going to be here much longer. And I want to make sure she's taken care of when I leave. And I was like, wow, that's very matter of fact, you know. She's getting married already. That was a year ago.
Well, they say that, it's a reflection of, now, how long have you been a widow?
5 years.
Oh, okay. It really, you can't, you, everyone's grief, everyone's path is different.
Mhm.
With my mom, it was a couple of years, and then each boyfriend afterwards, it was another couple of years, in between.
Mhm.
But with me, it wasn't death, it was a breakup. I met my fiance literally the week I started graduate school to get my Ph.D. And he broke up with me literally right before I got my doctorate. So I always thought of him as my graduate school romance. It was 4 years. However, these were very important 4 years for an older woman because, I came out of it at 34.
Mhm.
So I met Fred less than 6 months later. I thought it was going to be a much longer recovery time because after 2 years, my ex-fiance and I got engaged,
Mhm.
and we even got a hall. And my father put down an $800 deposit on uh,
Reception.
a
Yeah.
reception in right on Central Park South. And when my fiance said he needed more time, I did ask him to pay my father back, which he did do. But literally, I hung around for 2 years, figured it was going to work out, and it didn't. And, as I said, I thought I was going to have a much longer recovery time because it was 13 years between my first husband and,
And this new one.
well, I guess it wasn't even 13 years, like -4. So it was like, 9 years
Mhm.
till I found my ex-fiance. But I figured out what went wrong and what went right, and that's an important part of this whole process.
And you've
Uh,
got that in the book. You've got all these different things in the book that people can fill out and work on and make lists.
exactly.
Yeah, really
Relationships are two
fascinating.
people, and
Yeah.
and it's not even two people. It's 10 people because it's your mother and it's your father
And the
and it's
Myers-Briggs
your
that you
siblings.
talk about, that's very interesting. There's a lot of guys that put that in their profile. What letter they are. That's what it's called, right? The Myers-Briggs test? Isn't that
Oh, right. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And, what I'm trying to say is that our influences can, really, it's funny because I'm decluttering. So I'm reading through, talk about saving letters from 1979. I finally parted with letters from my ex-mother-in-law. And
Wow.
it was very interesting because I forgot that she called my ex-husband and I kittens. And
Oh,
she addressed all the letters to us, dear kittens. It's like, what's that about?
yeah.
You know,
What a big,
all of these influences on those people we love and on ourselves. So,
well, that's why you always want to meet the mother. If you can, if the mother's alive, you want to see how he treats his mother because that's usually how they treat you. Um, that's what I heard. My husband's mother had passed away when I met him, but there's been other people that I've met and they really love their mom. So it has to be a balance, you don't want them to love their mom so much that they love their mom. more than they love
oh
you.
no, that's true.
But one more thing while we have a little bit of time left. I just want to find out if you had one way or one type of, because you talk about so many different like barrels of fish or fish in the sea or whatever that one's called, and millionaire match, and you mentioned so many in your book. Is there anything like Match.com? I mean, I've been on Match.com, and this isn't about me finding somebody. That's not why we're having this conversation. I want to help everybody
Of course.
because half of everybody in the world gets divorced in this country. So I know we're all going to be, almost everybody's going to be in this spot. So, but I have tried a lot of these things, even just to see what they are. And it's just been so weird to me because the people that think that we're right for each other, I just can't imagine how they could think that. And then there's other people that have been real wonderful. And it's just, it's too much of a broad amount. It's just, I'll say let's say I want to marry a guy from India and they don't send me anybody from India. I don't want to marry a guy from India, but I mean, I'm just saying, if
Right, sure,
you put the things in that you're looking for and it's real clear, and then the people choose you when you've said, I don't want that. Um,
sure.
I don't get it. 50, I'm willing to move to certain states, but I'm not willing to move everywhere in the whole world. And there'll be people, I just don't understand. Is there one that you think is a little bit more than another? But these also, It's Just Lunch is expensive as heck, and the matchmakers are thousands and thousands. And I just think there's got to be another way. You have to remember, I moved out here when the pandemic first started. So 2 of the 5 years, I couldn't leave my house.
Mm,
So it was hard to deal with.
sure.
And the past
Well,
3 years has just been pretty much becoming the man I want to marry. I think
sure,
that's what I did before. I had the great career. I had my own house, my own car, my own 401k, my own dog,
sure,
I didn't need somebody. And it's financially, I didn't need somebody. And
sure,
when I met my husband, right? When I finally didn't need him even to have kids, I found a way to adopt children. So he was no longer auditioning for fatherhood. I had enough money
sure.
and I had a way to have kids. So that's what I think I need to do for myself again. But is there a place that you would recommend that people go?
Well, I wish there was one place, but the good news about me doing all this research is this wonderful young woman. She's actually a former student, but she's now in her mid-20s, and we've kept up. And she met her husband through Bumble.
Oh,
And when she moved here from Europe, she used Bumble to find friends, girlfriends. And
really?
then when she became from her like late teens to mid 20s, and she now wanted to find a husband, she then shifted to Bumble for males. I interviewed a wonderful couple in their late 50s, and they met through Match.com. The woman had been on Match for 10 years and
Mm,
had never met Mr. Right.
wow.
Her future husband got divorced. He was on Match, I think, for a month, and he met her and they got married and they're very
Wow.
happy together. I have a friend who met through, she was widowed slash divorced. It's kind of complicated because if you divorce someone who then dies, do you consider yourself a
Which
widow?
one are you?
But she met her boyfriend. She has one grown daughter and he has a couple of kids. So they were in their mid-60s. They met through eharmony.com.
Mhm.
I went to the wedding of a woman who will remain unnamed because even today, it was about 5 years ago, but even today, people are self-conscious that they're using online. They met through Plenty of Fish. So, but in this wonderful Forbes Health article, and I want to give the author credit because she did a lot of work, um, Coralie Pendergast, and I'm embarrassed to say I don't know the gender of Carly, so I'm not going to assume who it is, but the state of dating in America, and as I do in my book, have all these ways to meet. The most popular was online dating apps. But my comment is, what about the websites? There are people, especially older people, who are not doing apps. They're still going to Match.com online. Um, the second most popular way was in the overall group through a friend, but it ranged because 18 to 26-year-olds were meeting through a friend.
Mhm.
41% in the 59 to 77-year-old age group. But I think I mentioned earlier, 78 and over, only 5.4% were meeting through a friend. The third most popular way to meet is concerts or festivals.
Oh,
The fourth way is through a social club or hobby. The fifth way is through social media. The sixth is through work. Now, the interesting thing is the most common way to meet was for 59 to 77-year-olds for work. That was almost 40%, only 26% for the younger, for overall. Then you have, I was quite surprised that at a gym was quite low on the ways to meet.
everybody looks like crap at the gym.
But look, if you meet someone at the gym, who cares if you're in 14%, right?
That's right. That's right.
So what I did when I decided that I had to find Mr. Right, because I was not going to miss out on having a family, and I was going to adopt if I didn't
That's what I
find
did.
Mr. Right and have children
Mhm.
by 40, I was going to adopt.
Yeah.
But I did, everything. I didn't just do the personals. When I went to my cousin's wedding, I said to the man sitting next to me, because I knew he wasn't right for me. And people, when they know you're single, they stick you with people that they think you might work out. But I said, hey, do you have any single friends that I could meet? I went to dance clubs. I just did everything. And I think with the dating apps and the websites, a lot of them have free, you have a free trial. Try it out, see if that works for you, see if it's comfortable. Matchmakers, even though they can be more expensive than the sites, if it's someone that you really trust, there's Jasbina in California who's got a lot of good recommendations. If they really help you and you do meet someone who's right for you, you got to amortize the investment over,
Because
what,
once
what
you've
you're
joined all
getting
the
out of
different,
it.
you're in the thousands if you've joined all these different ones anyway. $70 a month for 4 years, or
Sure.
$30 or $300
Sure.
and then
Sure,
$200.
and one of my favorite ways to meet someone would be to write an article about, how do people in your age group meet someone?
Yeah, when
And,
you can't meet them staying home, and I do that all the time. I'm a writer.
interview people.
I'm a
And,
writer, so I'm here 4 hours a day sitting at my, doing my writing, and then I'm doing the show. So you can't meet them
but
sitting in
speed
your
dating.
house. Yeah.
Also, 100, my book has 125 ways.
I was very,
Go,
I was very,
go,
I was
go
very
on.
impressed.
Go on. I'm not kidding. When people start at number one and keep going, I have found when they give me personal feedback that by X number, they're already coupled off.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well,
So,
yeah,
go
that's the
on,
very high end. I like that. I like that a
yeah,
lot.
travel, go on trips that have singles, co-ed singles. Even if you go on a trip with females that it's female bonding, they're going to have brothers who are divorced or widowed. They're going to have cousins. They're going to have people they work with.
Put
Oh,
some
I know
energy
someone for
into it.
you.
Little elbow grease. That's what you're saying. I get it. I
You
get it.
got, yeah,
That's me too.
it's got to be a priority
Yeah.
because, but the rewards are so, we know that happy people connect,
Yeah.
and you live longer.
It's healthier. Better
There's
for
going to
you.
be, let's be honest, there's going to be a little jealousy from the other single girlfriends or boyfriends, and the children have to adjust to someone new in your life. But that's just part of life that you work through, and it's wonderful.
Well, when is the third edition coming out? What are you doing with that?
Oh, boy, you're putting me on the spot.
Yeah, what's the next book you're writing? What's the next one? Because I really love this one. You don't really need another one. I think you've updated everything quite a bit
Oh, thank you.
On the Audible
Yeah.
that I listened to.
Yeah, well, I just came out with a book on celebrating friends and friendship. Oh, and I wrote a new book that just came out called Around the World in 80 Ways.
Okay.
And it tells you 60 ways that they'll pay you to go travel.
Oh, I've
And
got to get that. That
yeah,
sounds like fun.
yeah. And
That
then
sounds-
20 ways that you have to pay, but I have reasonable ways to do it.
When's that one
And,
coming out?
well, that one's just out.
It's just out.
Um,
Okay.
I was also thinking of changing the title to Meet the Love of Your Life instead of 125 Ways, because maybe the 125 Ways is a little overwhelming to people, but I'm still debating over that.
Okay.
But on the other hand, 125 Ways is catchy and it has its, history going
Yeah.
back in all the different languages and everything. So
Can always say, formerly 125 ways, and then
sure,
you're
yeah.
covered.
No, I will get to it, and everyone should go to my website, drjanyager.com. If, please get the 125 Ways. It's an audiobook, it's ebook, it's print. And I'll be happy to, the stuff that I'm updating, I can keep that as a PDF that I can share. So anyone who gets the book now, when the third edition comes out, I'll be more than happy to send them a PDF of
I
the
just think that's great. I loved it. I'm still listening to it. I've got like an hour left. I listened to the whole thing. It was
Well,
fantastic.
did you listen to the chapter where Fred and I tell our version of our story?
Yes, I love that. It
Yeah.
was so sweet. And he's got a
It
good
was,
voice for radio. I don't know if that was really
well,
him.
no, it was very nice of the narrator to have her husband say Fred's part.
Oh, it was
Yeah.
really great. I thought it was just fantastic. So anyway, thank you so much for being with us. Everybody, make sure you go to Dr. Jan Yager's website, YAGER, right? .com.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
drjanyager.com.
125 ways to meet the love of your life. And it's really worth getting. It's really, really worth it for you or
Thank you so
someone in
much.
your family. You're welcome.
Tanya. Oh, and LinkedIn. I want to do something at LinkedIn called Linked Up.
I like it.
Yeah. Why shouldn't people with ethics and, legitimacy who are looking for someone romantically, is it okay to have a little heart by your name if
Let's
you
give
are
that,
looking?
let's write in. I'll write in if you write in. See what they say. Okay. Well, thanks a lot, honey.
Okay,
You were
take care.
great. Okay. God bless. Thank you again.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
sure. Bye-bye.